Sons of the Forest. Good to know right off the bat you're playing a recovering heroin addict. So here's how it goes. Laptop, helicopter crash, open boxes. This Poison Oak simulator has you just wandering around a forest and, Oh, well hey little guy. Want a blueberry? Oh yeah. Oh yeah, fuck these monkeys. So the game has you wandering around a forest while avoiding monkeys looking for survival stuff and places to nap. This game is kind of surreal for many reasons. For example, why is there so much vodka on the island? You never drink it. Well, it's probably because you're in recovery. Been working on this building for 3 days and these monkeys.
Get off my lawn.
Oh great, the building inspector's here now. Hey, listen, I didn't know I needed a permit for stairs, but can I just... What the hell, man? Oh. Alright, let's chill. Let's just start over. Sons of the Forest is a nature walk game with hazards. You're some kind of agent who flies to this island in a helicopter to do something about saving a guy. I don't know. Really, you're a survivor who looks for caves to find stuff and then sets up little temporary camps, or big ones if you've got all the time in the world and don't give a shit about the plot. You can just survive, I guess. It really is just surviving. I wouldn't call it living. You are a homeless invader on a foreign island, and the uncivilized residents all basically want you to leave or die. Except for a couple of random people who aren't really introduced to you very well till you're in a kind of surreal cutscene with them. This guy, Kyle or Carl or whatever, he crash lands here with you and he suffers a traumatic brain injury, so you communicate with him via passive-aggressive notes. He'll do stuff for you sometimes if he's not busy running away from the monkeys. This is his weird Slavic girlfriend. She doesn't say much. The game is early access, so they'll probably patch in some plot later. Right now, the game handles storytelling like a DIY project. I like that the plot is told mostly with environmental storytelling, but there is no explanation for really most things, and after enough exposure to some of the more bizarre encounters, one might think they're having an AI-created hallucination and none of this is actually real. You know, where the patterns and all the things and the repetition of the world are all due to an oversimplification and keeping the user from becoming overwhelmed, keeping them pacified, while the anomalous encounters fall into the uncanny valley, lacking humanity or reason. There are weird religious overtones, and one might actually start to ponder if the power of Christ can deliver us from island fever, or, at the very least, from the monkeys. Maybe this whole game is an analogy, perhaps for overcoming something like, you know, heroin. Maybe look at the denizens of the island as the people of a different kind of life, as you rasp away at the stains and sores of a substance-addled mind. The suffering of survival here is an analogy for the mundane drip-drop of sober reality. You are Sisyphus, living day by day, having to be present in this horrific existence that you call yours, only to have to wake after every brief sleep to the same hell again. These unknown people who are familiar with you, these caretakers whom you've lost their names along the path of internal destruction, should feel more important, but you've lost the capacity to see why. This man who you may disregard is steadfastly loyal to you as a reliable figure in your times of need, like a sponsor. These sectioned-off caves where you explore your way into the darker narrative hells are therapy sessions. The faith in the cross is salvation reserved for the belief in a higher power. The hidden artifact of the island is a glass elevator to your greater possibilities, of which you can only sustain a brief glimpse as your microwaved sponge of a mind recalls you to the ground floor again, so you don't slip back into your self-destructive cycle of abuse. Eating, drinking, sleeping, as taxing as they are still the easiest things, where everything else pushes you to the edge of relapse. With all of this in mind, maybe you see a new meaning for the counter for the days and hours survived. Or maybe maybe we've dug too far. This is a pretty simple game. There are markers on the GPS that you carry as a kind of guide to help you find points of interest, many of which are tracking tags attached to dead bodies of other nameless, faceless agents such as yourself who didn't survive the island. The surreal thing is, once you've collected their GPS tags, the markers will come back after you've restarted the game. All of the containers and items in the world return to how they were before you arrived. As a game mechanic, it's nice to be able to scavenge more equipment. As for the ramifications of an immersion experience, you might fear for your soul. There's a kind of Where's Waldo feel to trying to discover points of interest and landmark locations without the use of the GPS or an online guide. The forest is dense, the terrain is uneven, and the pressure to move quickly is palpable with the lingering threat of monkeys, cannibal tribes, and sometimes something worse. This game has some cool places to explore. It really has creepy in the bag in the best way. When it does do that, it's so satisfying. Anytime you go underground into a cave or a bunker, it's like nightmare fuel. The ambiance is excellent. I start having flashbacks of Alien or Scorn. The problem is, how long can creepy last before you become desensitized to it? Simply running past monsters is more effective than actually fighting. Run, grab, heal. It really cheapens the experience, but when encounters are so plentiful and with combat like this... Every time I died from a clunky combat encounter in this game, I had to fight this urge to go do something else, to avoid having to struggle through the same frustrating monster corridors to get to some out-of-the-way placed item that I needed. Many of the weapons and tools in the game sound and feel inadequate. You can feel the developer's lack of general acquired knowledge for satisfying combat from the countless examples from the last 30 years of video games. These frustrations, coupled with the oddly redundant minimap UI and constant nagging of unwanted tips like being wet and cold, well, it breaks the immersion. The best moments of Sons of the Forest are just that, moments. I personally love the unraveling of the gear. I love the backpack for the quick items. I love cooking and eating food. The cutting of the trees and stacking of logs to create structures feels really nice. There are animations for things you probably wouldn't be used to having in most games, and it really sells the whole experience. It pairs extremely well with the beauty and well-crafted weavings of the forest shrubbery. The aesthetics are so nice, it might even be an enjoyable vacation spot. Yeah. No. Never mind. I completed the game. But what I wanted to do was simply finish my beach house. The trouble is, the game keeps sending waves of monkeys and wildmen to hassle me. It's almost like they can't peacefully acknowledge that a homeless man has annexed and began deforesting their serene beachfront property. There's no way to communicate or to final solution them, and watching them ignore deterrents and repeatedly impale themselves on my super obvious spike traps feels actually really awful. I've played this game for a week, and my feelings towards this whole experience are ambiguous. I did a lot of wondering during my wanderings about how great this game could be when it's actually finished. When the credits rolled, as of right now, having completed the experience, I'm not sure that I would give this bed and breakfast a glowing review. The thing is, though, the longer I've had to stew on my feelings, I feel an odd sort of calling. I want to suffer the survival again, and maybe bring a friend. I want to finish my beach house. Stair permits be damned. I want to get lost into the forest. But then the monkeys show up.